The envelope had been sitting in a courthouse archive for 9 years. 9 years of dust. 9 years of silence. 9 years while a man sat behind prison walls insisting he didn't belong there. Most people had forgotten the case. The newspapers stopped writing about it. The courtroom moved on to other trials. Even the jurors who once debated his fate had returned to normal life. But the envelope never moved. It stayed sealed, locked in a brown evidence box. Until one morning, someone finally opened it. Before we continue, subscribe to the Unheard Witness, because sometimes the smallest piece of forgotten evidence can change everything. 9 years earlier, the courtroom had been packed. The case was everywhere. A local business owner found attacked in his office, a safe emptied of cash, and one suspect standing in court. His name was Daniel Mercer. He had worked for the victim, trusted employee, account manager, someone with access to the building. The police believed the motive was obvious: money, thousands of dollars missing from the safe. The prosecutor stood in front of the jury and pointed directly at Daniel. He knew the codes, he knew the schedule, and he was the last person seen in the building. The jury listened carefully. The evidence seemed simple. A witness claimed they saw Daniel leaving the office late that night. Security footage showed a figure in a dark coat entering the building. And Daniel couldn't explain why his fingerprints were on the safe. Daniel had said the same thing over and over. "I worked there. Of course my prints are on it." But by the end of the trial, it wasn't enough. The jury took 3 hours. 3 hours to decide a man's future. When they came back into the courtroom, Daniel already knew. The verdict was guilty. 12 years in prison. No appeals changed anything. The case was closed, or at least everyone thought it was. 9 years later, a junior court clerk named Olivia was reorganizing old evidence files. It wasn't exciting work. Boxes of documents, old exhibits, things nobody expected to use again. But court records had to be catalogued, every item labeled, every piece logged. Olivia lifted a small brown evidence box onto the table. The label had faded, but she could still read the case number: Mercer versus State. She opened the lid carefully. Inside were photographs from the crime scene, a flash drive containing security footage, and one sealed envelope. It had never been opened. Her brow furrowed. Because every piece of evidence in a trial is usually reviewed. But this one had a red stamp. Hold for court order. Olivia turned the envelope over. No signatures, no explanation, just a handwritten note on the back. Submit if requested. Requested by who? And why hadn't anyone requested it? Curiosity crept in, but she knew the rules. Evidence couldn't be opened without authorization. So Olivia walked down the hall to the judge's office. Judge Howard had been on the bench for nearly 20 years. He looked up from his desk when Olivia entered. "Yes." She held up the envelope. This was in the Mercer case archive. The judge recognized the name instantly. "That case is finished." "I know," Olivia said, "but this envelope was never opened." The judge frowned slightly. "Never?" "No, Your Honor." He leaned back in his chair. What does the label say?" Olivia read it carefully. "Evidence submission from building security contractor." The judge paused. Security contractor? He remembered the trial. Security footage had been a key part of the case. The timestamp placed Daniel at the building shortly before the attack, but the envelope in Olivia's hand. That meant something had been submitted after the trial began. The judge stood slowly. "Let's take a look." They moved into the evidence review room. A camera recorded every action. Chain of custody mattered. The judge signed the authorization form. Olivia placed the envelope on the table. For 9 years, it had remained sealed. Now the judge slid a letter opener beneath the flap. The paper tore softly. Inside was a single document and a small data disk. The judge picked up the document first, and a letter from the building security company, dated 2 days after the trial started. The judge read silently, then read it again. His expression changed. Olivia noticed immediately. "What is it?" The judge didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up the disk. "Let's see the file." They loaded it onto the courtroom evidence computer. A video appeared on the screen. Security footage, different from the one shown during the trial. This camera faced the building's parking lot. The timestamp displayed clearly, 10:14 p.m., the night of the attack. A car pulled into the lot. Olivia leaned closer. A man stepped out. The judge's eyes narrowed, because the man wasn't Daniel Mercer. The video continued. The man walked toward the building entrance. He unlocked the door with a key card. Olivia glanced at the judge. "Who is that?" The judge didn't answer, because he recognized the face. The man on the video was the victim's business partner, Mark Halstead, the same man who had testified during the trial, the same man who told the jury Daniel had been acting suspiciously for weeks. The video kept playing. Halstead entered the building at 10:14 p.m., but according to the trial, the attack happened at 10:10. Olivia felt the weight of the moment. "That means—" The judge nodded slowly. "It means someone lied." They rewound the footage, watched it again. Halstead entering calmly. No sign of panic, no rush. Just a man arriving late at his own office. But the trial testimony had placed him somewhere else. At home, watching television, an alibi. Olivia looked at the letter again. The security company explained everything. The parking lot camera footage had been stored on a separate server. It wasn't automatically included with the building's main system. When technicians discovered it later, they mailed it to the court. But the envelope had arrived after closing arguments began. Somehow, it had been filed away, never opened, never shown to the jury. The judge leaned back slowly. 9 years. 9 years a man sat in prison, because this envelope stayed sealed. Olivia spoke quietly. "What happens now?" The judge's voice was firm. "We reopen the case." 2 weeks later, the courtroom filled again. Daniel Mercer was brought from prison in handcuffs, older now, tired, but still insisting he had been innocent all along. When the judge announced the new evidence, the room went silent. The prosecutor looked stunned. Mark Halstead sat in the witness section, his face pale. The video played on the courtroom screen. 10:14 p.m. Halstead stepping out of his car, walking calmly into the building. Daniel watched the screen without blinking, because this was the first time anyone had seen it. The judge addressed the courtroom. This footage contradicts sworn testimony from the original trial. Halstead shifted in his seat. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, this may not prove involvement." The judge nodded. "Perhaps not." Then he looked toward Halstead. "But it proves someone was not where they claimed to be." The courtroom felt heavier. Halstead wiped sweat from his forehead. The judge continued. "The original verdict depended on a timeline." He gestured toward the screen. "This video changes that timeline." The jurors from the new hearing studied the image carefully, because sometimes the truth hides in the background, waiting for the right moment to be noticed. And in this case, it had waited inside one forgotten envelope.